Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel. So it's been a little while since I've done any sort of adventure type of video, and on this video I'm going to tell you about my wife and my experience heading out to Cape Lookout, North Carolina in our Gen 3 Raptor 2021. And be sure to stay tuned throughout the video. I'll give you some tips and tricks and some of our experience as far as what you need to bring and what you need to plan for your trip over to Cape Lookout, North Carolina. Now, you got a few different options as far as some of the things you can do while you're on the island. But first off, to get there, you must take the ferry out of Davis. So they book up pretty fast, and especially during the summer months, I definitely recommend reserving your spot on the ferry to and from Cape Lookout ahead of time with a lot of time to spare. Now the ferry service itself is great. You roll up there, you check in, you pay your fee, so you don't have to pay anything up front until you actually arrive to take the ferry. And then they of course puzzle everybody on board. Now once you get to the other side of the bay over into Cape Lookout, there is a check-in station there, and you have to get your off-road pass, and if you have a cabin rental, which we did, you can also check in at that point, but we were a little early, so we actually had to circle back later on in the day and check into our cabin. So the cabins are all very primitive. They have electric hookup for a generator, which we did bring a small generator for that. They have a kitchen area with a stove that's gas powered. They do provide the gas for that, and they also have hot water. So you have a shower stall as well as a commode and a sink and a mirror in the bathroom. Now for our particular cabin, we had an 8-bunk cabin, which was way more than what we needed for just the wife and I, but it was the one that was available. So it actually, I think, cost us a little more, but since we had changed around our reservation, we had to take what we could get. They all have a nice porch on the front, so you can kind of sit and relax, and most all the cabins are really close to the beach, so we could walk to the beach within about 1 minute walk. So it was right over the dune there, outside the front porch. Now for the cabin, I would recommend to bring a few things: a generator if you have it, a fan in case you don't have much ocean breeze. We were very fortunate. There were some storms in the area, a tropical storm actually, so we had quite a bit of a nice breeze at nighttime, but if not, you're going to want some fans, possibly an AC unit. The other thing you're going to want to bring is, of course, your cooking utensils, pots, pans, anything like that. Anything you're going to need for the kitchen. They don't have anything like that. They did provide some toilet paper. We brought extra paper towels. You're also going to want to bring, any sort of drinks that you're going to want. We were pretty well stocked up. We did not run out of anything as far as drinks or food or anything like that. A couple other things that I would recommend bringing is something like a thermocell insect repellent that you can run. The other thing and that's mostly for flying insects like mosquitoes, horseflies, gnats, and stuff like that. One thing that we wish we had brought was some ant spray. So the cabins are situated in the dunes, and you can get quite a bit of ants coming into the cabin, especially if you have any food items. Speaking of which, make sure you bring an ample amount of Ziploc bags and or storage containers to seal off your food after you get done eating or cooking or whatever, to try to minimize the ants invading your cabin space. So you are allowed to camp on the island anywhere along the beach as long as it's not designated as a no camping zone. So I know they don't like people camping like right in front of the cabins and stuff like that. There is a public bathhouse there close to the cabins that you can shower up and clean up and all that stuff if you choose to camp. We did see quite a few people with campers as well as tent camping, rooftop tents, all that overland and sort of stuff that folks like to do. We do tent camp ourselves, but the cabins were kind of nice to have something like that, especially to block the wind. So it can get very windy on the island, especially if there's any storms rolling through. So that's something to keep in mind, that if that's going to bother you, you may want to opt for a cabin. But you don't need a cabin. Like I said, you can definitely camp on the island itself. There's also potable water where you can grab that. It's free of charge. They do have gas and ice on the island that you can purchase as well if you have a generator or you need ice-free cooler. We actually had to refill our coolers a few times because we were there for 4 days, so ice only lasts so long. You can also bring your own firewood and set up fires out on the beach. They do tell you to only do a fire if it's at low tide. That way when the tide comes in, you can you know, you don't have to worry about the fire staying lit. If you leave it or something like that, the tide will pretty much wash it out. Also, speaking of the tides, be very careful. The tides come in and go out. Be aware of the tide times. You do not want to park down close to the water when the tide is going to be rising. You might find yourself in a situation where your truck is stuck or even underwater. That sort of thing does happen, and it's very easy if you're not paying attention to that. I recommend a tide app, or just go online and just tell them where you are. If you Google the tide schedule for the area, you should be able to find it pretty easily. You know, as far as the vehicle that you bring, make sure that it's something off-road worthy, that has preferably some all-terrain tires or something like that. I don't recommend coming over with something that just has all-weather tires. Also, make sure you air down. The sand can get super soft in quite a few areas, and you risk the chance of getting stuck. Speaking of driving around on the island, there are 2 posted speed limits that I saw. You have 15 and 25. Most areas are 25, if not marked. Out on the beach, you know, just be aware there are park rangers and stuff like that roaming around. If they see you doing something unsafe potentially, or driving too fast, they will stop you. Also, fishing licenses, you know, make sure you have the proper licensing if you are going to fish, and that will, you know, make sure that you're legal and you don't get into any sort of trouble there. There are also some debris in different parts of the island along the surf, so you want to pay very close attention when you're driving around, as you could run up on some debris and puncture a tire or something like that. If you have some sort of an issue you can't handle yourself, getting a wrecker service or getting help with your vehicle if you break down is going to be very, very challenging and probably very expensive. So just make sure, you know, do your due diligence with your vehicle. Make sure you have recovery gear, traction boards, a shovel, all those stuff that you kind of need if you're going to be doing some sort of off-roading, even light off-roading. I mean, it's not, the sand is not terrible to drive in. Just you know, if you're somebody that's not used to driving out on the beach, we actually head to another place fairly regularly called Fort Fisher. It's south of Carolina Beach, and so we have quite a bit of experience driving out on the beach. We have yet to get stuck. Here I am knocking on some wood, but you know, we just try to pay attention and know how to drive in the sand and whatnot. So if you have questions about that sort of thing, definitely let me know. I'm sure anybody that regularly off-roads would be able to give you some good advice for that sort of thing as well. So Cape Lookout, North Carolina is a really good place to fish. This was our first time visiting there, but we came with some fresh cut mullet and some fresh shrimp that we picked up. And our first day there was actually the best day of fishing. Unfortunately, I didn't take any pictures of the fish that I caught. I caught a couple of bluefish the first day, and I hooked a red drum that I lost right at the shore, so that kind of sucked. Definitely check out your tackle when it comes to that sort of stuff. It was a corroded hook latch that actually gave way and I lost a fish. So lesson learned there. You know, if you start getting corrosion on your fishing tackle, chuck that stuff in the trash and get something new. But as far as the bait, they do sell bait at the Davis Ferry. However, if you're coming through New Bern, B&J Seafood, you can actually call ahead and tell them what you want, how much, and even if they're closed, they will put it, if you let them know when you're going to be passing by, they will put it in a iced up box for you, ready to go outside their building. So that's what we did, because we were passing through there quite early. We had to be at the ferry landing at 8 o'clock, and I didn't want to risk the chance of getting the ferry and them not having bait there at the Davis Ferry. So just kind of a pro tip there, you know, schedule your bait ahead of time. And like I said, B&J Seafood in New Bern, right off of Highway 70. That's where we got our bait ahead of time. Very popular place. Actually, it was a friend of my wife's that told us about it. So one other thing that I'll mention about taking a trip out to Cape Lookout, and I've heard of people doing day trips out there. I don't understand quite how they manage that, but the ferry service, although they are on a schedule, be prepared for weather delays and stuff like that. So actually on our way back, we were supposed to have the ferry pick us up at 2:45, and it was over an hour past that before we got picked up. And because of the wind and the weather, I think they were running slower across the bay than normal. So it was on the tail end of that tropical storm the previous day. And yeah, so just plan for extra time. You know, get to the ferry an hour plus early. They supposedly will allow people on earlier if they have extra spots. That's just not always the case. So just make sure you book your times and you know, pay attention to that schedule. And you know, don't be rolling up at the last minute, because there's a good chance you won't get on the ferry if that's the case. So other than the things that I've already mentioned, you know, the obvious stuff that you're going to want to bring: sunblock, sunscreen, some sort of after sun care, anything to keep yourself kind of shaded. We got one of those mini Shibumi things. They're quick to put up. I mean, they make a lot of noise, but they do provide shade in a pinch. And you know, chairs and stuff like that. It's you know, it's a beach, right? So you're going to want to just be prepared for the beach. Sandals, all that. Plan on getting sand inside your truck or your vehicle. I mean, it took me, you know, I'll be cleaning the sand out the truck for probably a few weeks, I imagine. But you know, it's all worth it. Cape Lookout, you know, they have a lighthouse there on the southern point of that. Also a small little kind of village with an old no longer used Coast Guard station, which we didn't get to. Unfortunately, we had the tropical storm Chantel coming through the area, so we had about a loss of about a day and some change because of the weather, unfortunately. You know, we just kind of hunkered down in the cabin a little bit, and then took walks out on the beach in between the you know, the rain and thunder and stuff that was coming through. But yeah, it was an epic trip. I definitely, if you're into the outdoors, you're into the beach life and a little bit of off-roading, Cape Lookout, North Carolina, it's definitely worth the trip out there for sure. And I think that about wraps it up. So I appreciate everybody watching this video. If you have any questions or comments regarding to my trip, or questions about something you're trying to plan out there, I know there's other videos on Cape Lookout, so it's a fairly popular place for folks to go. But any questions or comments, please put those down below. And you know, once again, I appreciate everybody watching and subscribing, and I will catch you all in the next video. Y'all take it easy. This road.